All right, welcome to the Faia World presentation. Polynet, go ahead and share your screen if you're able to. I'm going to stop sharing real quick. Right. Perfect. Feel free to begin. Thank you so much.
Hey, welcome. My name is Paulina Kirindongo. I'm a Puerto Rican writer. I have written sci-fi, urban fantasy, and historical fantasy stories. I have written 2 short stories and almost 10 microfictions. I would like to present you my fellow writer, Cameron Posey.
You're muted, Cameron.
Sorry, my bad. I'm Cameron Posey. I am a story developer and one of the writers of Faia. I have a BA in English Creative Writing and an MFA in Screenwriting and Film Studies. I write mostly middle grade and YA novels in the genres of high fantasy and urban fantasy. I am a substitute teacher based in the Washington, D.C. DMV area. And I'm also an amateur illustrator, an aspiring one too.
Well then, we present you Faia, the Artifact Rebellion. Sorry.
Okay. So before we get into the overview of Faia, I want you to envision a world, specifically a continent. To the setting, for the setting, to the west, there is a barren and formidable desert, hiding a whole era of magic and history beneath its sands. To the northwest is a beautifully fragile and unforgiving wilderness, ruins of stunning structures leaning melancholically against the bushes, eternally scolded for their arrogance. And to the southwest are snowy mountains that look down upon the glamorous jeweled city of the continent, and that is Tikos.
Well, Faia is a world where magic, technology, politicians, and pirates collide, nowhere more so than the prosperous metropolis named Tikos. But trouble is brewing in the city. Sentient magical artifacts are sick of being used to power this majestic city. When they start fighting for the liberation, the government, the pirates, and the citizen are crossfire. Survival becomes the paramount, and who wins is anyone's guess.
So what makes Faia so unique is that this is a socio and political climate that is predominantly run by women, and women are prioritized over men for most political, corporate, and civil service jobs. While men are suited for grunt work, if not raised to be domestic partners and spouses. Men who do not wish to partake in these roles are usually shunned from society and go into piracy as a profession. Tikos is also a very diverse and liberal cosmopolitan, and there are clear lines between, but even though Tikos is a diverse and liberal cosmopolitan, there's a very clear line between the haves and the have-nots, and the have-nots are growing more discontent and wish to cut their losses with the city. The general feel for Faia is a blend of magic, a blend of magic and political intrigue and piracy, where there are all sorts of non-magical, well, there are all sorts of magical and non-magical creatures. And this city is very developed in its technology, in which uses magic to power its tech.
Not only is Faia describe about the technology, but in Faia you can find any magical creature you can imagine. Sorry. Sequels foils are rich in fossils such as dragons, direwolves, saber-tooth tigers, and even the legendary Kraken. Rumor says that they also have the remains of a nine-tailed fox. Not only do we find wonderful living and extinct creatures, but we also get a glimpse of the people of Faia. We have from the shapeless, energetic beings like the elementals to humanize and humans. Then we have the artifacts, ancient instruments that the people of Faia had used to harness magic, like the Thunderbird necklace, an artifact that has spent centuries under the sea, trapped in a shipwreck. Its metal is rusty and covered in barnacles, so it's difficult to make out its form. We also have another artifact, like the wolf's artifact, a bracelet shaped like a looking ferocious wolf eating its own tail. And the fox artifacts, a bracelet shaped like a fox eating its own tail, capable of controlling their host. Not only are these the only artifacts, but we also get to view more of them as we continue with the stories. Anything you want to add, Cameron?
No, let's go to the next slide.
Okay.
Okay, so the premise of the story is that Sai is a science fiction fantasy that combines magic and technology in this action-packed, romantic, and socially conscious, character-driven story. The prosperous, diverse city of Tikos is the epicenter of magical technology. But again, as Paul Lynette said, trouble is brewing in this cosmopolitan place. The magical artifacts are sick of being used to advance the city, and they have developed a conscience of their own, a consciousness of their own. So, what makes our story so unique is that magic in this world is sentient. It has life in itself, and they are sick of being used for the sake of mortals. So when the artifacts start fighting for liberation, the government officials who research them, the pirates who trade them, and the Tico's leader, the powerful magician Lady Melanie, are all targets caught in the crossfire. And the fragile balance of power and peace is shattered when the city's residents quickly turn into the haves and the have-nots.
One of the premises of the main story is Lady Melanie's eccentric bias against men, which comes from their convoluted history due to the magical cleansing crusades. During these crusades, a man started a war against the original people of Faia, known as the Faian people, who could wield magic naturally. They were born with it. And it was a woman who ended the war. Hence why all the women keeps the seats in power, because they view men as corrupted and prone to violence. Anything else, Cameron?
No, let's go on to the next one, the inspiration or what we picture Faia to be. So our image for Faia is mostly it's Final Fantasy with its whimsical magic meets Pirates of the Caribbean with its charm and its characters meets Treasure Planet with its adventuresome, action-packed adventures and Atlantis as well to some of its themes. Oh no, sorry. Go ahead. Sorry. Some of the things we tackle in FI is what should we have the right to grant or deny other people's freedom, and even if it is for their own good, or and even if it is okay, is it for the good of all humanity, or is it just for the good of some people? At one point, at what point do we become oppressors or instigators of oppression? What's lost and gained when an individual has the freedom or is oppressed? And what will people do to dismantle or upkeep that status quo, or to upkeep the status quo? And is it right? And some of the other things we tackle are also the power of generational trauma and how it affects us as people from becoming victims to oppressors.
So, what inspired us to create this world and these characters? In my case, the inspiration to write female characters in main roles was because I wanted to see more female representation in literature. This desire of mine helped to bring into light this utopia where women are the rulers and the men in charge of the domestic life. Since young, I have written female characters as strong rulers, but only to be told that they are tyrannical. Angelina, my main character, might be my subconscious trying to break free from the mold of the typical, dutiful, and good daughter who is afraid of having ambitions. I struggle not to feel guilty for wanting to have ambitions. Then we have Angelina. She, due to her lack of magic, is ambitious. She does not let that minor detail stop her from going after her ambition, even if it means using all the means necessary to accomplish her goals. She is master of her own fate, and no one will rob her of that.
And with my character, Fern, we explore more so the bias against men and how it affects the younger generation, and how at the same time, the younger generation is at a push against the old and the status quo to be who they want to be.
Well, Faia is rich in history, like history, lore, and lore. Faia history divided into two eras, before BEF, before the era of Faia, and IEF, after the era of Faia. After the era of Faia takes place during the magical cleansing crusades, when all the people with magic abilities started to hunt down those without magic or the Faian people. The flora of fauna of Faia is interesting. They believe that the trees are the original wielders of magic because some of the artifacts have wood that helps them harness the magic. The people of Faia are divided into 4 factions: rulers, magicians, non-magicians, and pirates. The education, obviously, is segregated. Women studies political
Roles.
thank you, and the men learns about the domestic life. Their cuisine is very unique. For example, they have this famous hot chili soup, potato soup, that whenever they eat them, they fall unconscious, which also helps them to communicate with the magical artifacts. The transportation of Tychos, is considered the most efficient one. It's powered by stardust, steam, wood, and magic. And the lore is very interesting. For example, the pirates, they have this belief that the magic came into this world after the sun god Solaris was murdered.
Okay, let's continue on with the next one.
Yes.
So these are some of our characters. Solaris, which is Kaylee's character, is one of the main characters of the story. His occupation, he works as a curator's assistant in Errand Boy, and he was a former pirate. His age is in the early mid to 20s, and his abilities are a mixture of a chaotic ramshackle collection of talents that suit his personality. He wields the wolf bracelet, which has some solar energy powers or solar energy magic, and he is still learning how to cope with that and learn how to harness it for himself. Another main character, but also the antagonist of the story, and mind you, she's not evil, but an antagonist is not necessarily evil, but is the driving force against our main heroes. She is Lady Melanie, sorry. Lady Melanie. Her occupation is the ruler of Tychus, or Tikos, and she is the head of the Department of Retrieval. She is the creator of the Department of Retrieval and Containment for Artifacts, a department that is specifically led to capture magical artifacts and bring them back to the city. She appears in her early to mid-20s, and she is a magician capable of manipulating the Tikos barriers or the magic around Tikos. I'll let Paulinette handle her main character.
Well, my main character is Angelina. She's Rishi's love interest. Her occupation is the new artifact retrieval team, and formerly the artifact research division. She's 30. Even though that she doesn't have magic, she has a little small ability of telekinesis. She can read auras and absorb one's vitality, but that one is thanks to the artifact's aid. She is the current host of the fox-shaped bracelet, which sometimes controls her, but she fights against it.
Next slide. I'll let Paulina go with her other character, Captain Rishi, as well.
My second main character is Captain Rishi. He's a deterionist and a love interest to Angelina. He's a pirate. He can be described as someone who faces the challenges with a smile, adventurous. He's 30 years old and he has unknown abilities. And he's the captain of the Mystic Voyager.
So the next character is Halston, who is the childhood friend of Solaris and acts as Solaris's opposite, where Solaris is very adventurous, outgoing. Halston is more reserved into himself, but also he is more witty and observant. His occupation is an assistant curator. He does not like magic, even though it makes him a living studying it. His age is early to mid-20s, the same age as Solaris, and he has no magical capabilities. The next one is Nyx, who is a supporting character and Solaris's pirate mate slash mentor, who helps him try to understand more about his magical abilities as pertain to the wolf bracelet on his wrist. Her actual age is unknown, but she appears to be mid-20s, and her abilities as well are unknown, even though she has a slew of different magical abilities that she has yet to reveal. Nyx is sort of the sassy one of the group and also the one with most of the pirate connections. I would equivalent her to Captain Jack Sparrow from Pirates of the Caribbean. Eltina, she is a supporting character as well and is Angelina's opposite, also partner in the division of retrieval and containment. She appears in her mid to late 20s, and she is a hedge witch slash has some control over fairy magic, and which is distinct from the artifacts as magic. She is more to the book, but also has a little sass about her as well. And then we enter my character, Fern, one of the main characters, who is a student and also a sickly child with magical abilities, though they are hidden from him and kept a secret by his mother, who keeps his magic dormant by a magical artifact that suppresses magical abilities. And then we have another supporting character, an antagonist, who is an artifact himself, and his name is Astra. His artifact are dual wielding chakrams, which are these spinning blade circles, one with the power of time magic and another with the power of space magic, though he's very limited to time magic. He is one of the artifacts that is rebelling against the city of Tikos, and he appears to be from age 11 to 14. So with this prompt, so basically the story of Faia, the Artifact Rebellion, how I'm going to set it up is when we explain the prompts is that it's more set up as a 3-act structure. So with the unwelcome arrival, I would say this is pretty much the first act and the beats, the opening scene, and the setup. So with that being said, Ticos, sorry. So with that being said, I'll start reading the prompt. Lady Melanie senses the coming peril that the rebel artifacts have for Ticos. She launched a new government department, the Department of Retrieval and Containment, and enlists the help of pirates, including men, to help find and capture these artifacts. One day she announced the R. One day she annou- the, On the day she announces the RNC, the legendary pirate Captain Rishi arrived at Ticos. His arrival and the lady's announcement that she will work with men have stirred gossip about bad omens coming to the city. The uncharacteristically bad weather on the day of Captain Rishi's arrival does not help calm the nerves of the populace either. The next prompt is prompt Act 1B, and this one is more so covering beats the debate, or I'm sorry, the catalyst and the debate. So with that being said, things are slowly transitioning over to Act 2, in which there are trouble is spewing about the city. The magical artifacts are now sabotaging the city's technology and causing incidences to disperse up throughout the city. Some of these magical artifacts are able to do this because they can take the form, they're advanced enough to take the form of humans or mortals and keep themselves hidden. The only thing that makes them different from their human counterparts is that they have jewels embedded in their skin. And
And
so, oh, go ahead. Sorry, go ahead, Paulette.
in this act, Angelina begins to notice that she's being controlled by their artifact, and others are starting to see her as a threat as well.
Yes. And also in this prompt, my character Fern starts to learn that he has magical abilities from Astra, who he encounters after Astra sabotages the Tikos's transportation, the train. And this is also the part where Solaris starts learning more about his magical amulet, the wolf bracelet, and tries to come into and tries to learn more about how to control it. Trouble at the museum. So this is more so breaking into Act 2A, considerably the promise of the premise and the midpoint. So this is when an act of terrorism hits Tikos. The artifacts send a message to Lady Melanie that they would rather be dead than serve her and power the city by blowing up the museum of magical artifacts and killing their own brethren. This attack sends a tremor throughout the whole city that ends up outraging the populace and also sending them into fear, not knowing who was responsible for this attack. So with this one covers more so the all is lost moment and the dark night of the soul. So in response to the attack on the museum, Lady Melanie puts the whole city in lockdown. But slowly but quickly, the have-nots want to cut their losses with the city, specifically the underbelly of Tikos, which is more so made up of pirates, men, and also impoverished people. Lady Melanie refuses to let them leave and warns them to go back inside their houses, but it all falls under deaf ears, and Lady Melanie is forced to use her magic to basically make them do what she says. Those who are caught up in her magical onslaught, they have their essence taken away. And in the world of Faia, essence is more like it's equivalent to a consciousness. So an essence is basically what makes a person who they are and what they accumulate throughout their life. And once it's taken out of their body, they die, and the essence is believed to go out into the world and add more to life itself. Lady Melanie takes that and uses it for her own magical purposes to power the city of Tikos. So this one covers more so of the last of Act 2. The enemies come closer and the break into Act 2. So all the factions, after witnessing Lady Melanie's power, are trying to stop her, are trying to find a way to get out, regardless of the fact that she will do anything she can to keep them in. Many suspect something big is coming now from the rebel artifacts, now that the rebel artifacts are silent. Some in the darkest of hours, some in the darkest of hours search for any loopholes in Lady Melanie's power, and the city's defenses. Ticos' citizens are restless after the events that unfolded when closing the borders. Solaris, Houston, and many others have come up with ideas on what to do against the matriarch ruler of Ticos. And this will probably mark the end of the story, Act 3, heading into the finale and the opening and the image at the end. So at the dawn of another bright day, all the factions in and outside of Ticos are ready for the strike against Lady Melanie. Solaris, with the help of the artifact, Solaris, with the help of the artifact, is able to open the border to the city and get out and escape. The ruler of Ticos The ruler of Ticos already proved that she won't back down that easily. Life in Tychus returns to normal, but the fire of the resistance has not died out. Ticos will never be the same after this. And these are some of the artworks that we have for it. This is Lady Melanie, an artwork of Lady Melanie. Some of my concept art with Houston, the desert, and some of the parts of the city. And here are some more artwork. Most of this is mine. And this is the artifact of the wolf bracelet. This is the concept art for Angelina, Solaris, Rishi, and to the lower right, Nyx. For future goals that we're trying to plan, that we're doing with Faia, mostly we want to publish Faia, the Artifact Rebellion, and launch our fan page for Faia. Once we finish that, we're going to start continuing off the sequel to Faia, the Artifact Rebellion, and our idea of coming out with the sequel is releasing it in segments, similar to how people do with DLC with video games, except it's in novella style. Each novella will concentrate on a specific character's point of view, and it will be titled Episode Rishi or Episode Nyx or Episode Angelina, Episode Fern. Among other ideas that we want to shoot for is a graphic novel, maybe even a mobile game, possibly a a video game novel, maybe a TV show or a short film, and maybe pixelated characters for our mobile game.
In terms of the episodes, we might explore what happened after the final act of Faia. We were this evening discussing to start with Lady Melanie and what happened after they managed to make her to back down from the barrier.
Yes. So I think that's about it.
Can I ask a quick question, guys? Great presentation. A lot of amazing world building there. I just have a question with regard to the level of fantasy. I came in a little bit late, so I might have missed it. How high fantasy is the world? I'm trying to wrap my brain around how many artifacts are out there and how many of them can take human form. How rare are they? And how, like, between like Conan lo-fi fantasy to like Dungeons and Dragons, all bets are off. Where do you see your fantasy world?
So picture Final Fantasy, Pirates of the Caribbean, Treasure Planet, and Atlantis. That's the type of fantasy we're shooting for. More so high fantasy is its own world,
Gotcha.
own magic system. And as far as how many artifacts there are, so Fire has a history. So if anybody's recalled with Final Fantasy, they have the plot in Final Fantasy is often about there once being an advanced civilization, then there was a fall, and then there was an advanced civilization again. That's kind of where we're aiming for. So there are probably many different types of artifacts. I would say many of them might be in the hundreds. Go ahead, Paulinette. Sorry.
No, it's okay. Well, to help you clarify, I made a World of Faia historical and social notes. According to their history, there are like nearly 1,500 artifacts, but there could be many more which were lost during the Magical Crusade, since the Magical Crusade kind of like destroyed all the historical records that were there about them. So there could be more than 1,500 artifacts.
Okay, 1,500 you said? Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much for this wonderful, epic presentation. I know Kaylee is one of the creators, has been in the sideline there. Good to see you. So we will, if there isn't any more comments, we will end this presentation and we will be back in the same space in about 15 minutes, which I start early, but we'll start at 3 p.m. for the One Humanity collective that will be doing their wall presentation. Thank you so much, Cameron, Paulinette, and the judges, and Kaylee. We'll see you soon.
Thank you, everyone.